At last, I can proudly say we have all the numbers, folks. And yeah, number fans and number collectors, rejoice. All of the numbers from 1 to 107 are going to be real because Konami is printing the numbers 1 through 4, which were the only numbers that remained anime exclusive, and they're the part of this Numeron archetype, which was used by the final end boss of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, Dawn 1000. And yes, it's a 10 card long archetype. Two of the cards did exist before, but they weren't treated as an archetype because one monster was a standalone monster, and the other one was a Rankup Magic, which worked on basically anything, so it didn't fall under the archetype. However, now with this archetype on our front door, their field spell basically drags that Rankup Magic into the archetype. Well, technically two of them, but rank down Magic Numeron Fall, the other rank magic, is a Utopia support card, so I'm not going to count it. So it's a 10 card archetype, and yeah, it focuses on rank 1 spamming, so let's take a look, shall we? We start off with their only main deck monster, that being Numeron Wall. It's a level 1 fiend with 0 attack and defense, and if you control no cards or the only card you control is Numeron Wall, quick effect, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard to activate one Numeron Network from your hand or deck. You can only use this effect of Numeron Wall once per turn, and when you take battle damage, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, end the battle phase after the damage step. Okay, so this thing basically has, well, almost all of its effects. Well, the first effect did not exist, by the way. It was actually the field spell's effect, believe it or not. A field spell had a hand trap quick effect in the anime. That's how far we've come in the show in terms of effect design. But yeah, this is a discard field searcher which directly activates the field spell from the deck. And yeah, Numeron Network was actually a very powerful card in the anime, but it was severely nerfed, as we'll see it later on. But in terms of, well, everything else, you basically run this because it's a nice field searcher, terraforming is limited, and Numeron Network works very well within this archetype, but it was very powerful in the anime and was severely nerfed since then. But anyway, let's go on to the main meat of the archetype, the extra deck, with the numbers that finally got introduced into the game. Number 1, Numeron Gate Acom. Number 2, Numeron Gate Dove. Numeron Gate Trini, which is number 3. And finally, number 4, Numeron Gate Katvari. I'm going through all of them at once because they have the exact same stats, summoning conditions, and effects. All of them are rank 1s, which require 3 level 1 monsters in order to summon them. And they cannot be destroyed by battle. At the end of the damage step, if this card battled an opponent's monster, you can detach one material from this card, double the attack of all Numeron monsters you currently control until the end of this turn. Now, the idea is obviously to bring out all 4 of them at once, and there's actually a certain spell card which makes this task immensely easy, piss easy, I would dare say. But if this came out smack dab in the middle of Master Rule 4, I would be singing a completely different tune here. But since it's not, I'm actually greeting it with open hands. So yeah, this is actually a fun and unique kind of effect, and it functions exactly like it did in the anime, because the only part of the effect that it's missing is that it cannot be destroyed by battle except by battle with a number monster, which none of the number monsters unfortunately did not carry over. But yeah, basically you tend to bring out all 4 of them and attack everything and everyone. So yeah. You basically run at least 2 of each because they're necessary for the deck to function, and they're the core of the Numeron playstyle. However, their final rank 1 is actually a monster used on the opposite side of the team, as in Dawn 1000 did not use it, but rather Yuma did in his duel against him. And that's number 100, Numeron Dragon. This one has a bit of a different summoning condition. It has 0 attack and defense, requires 2 number Xyz monsters with the same name and rank. Okay, so yeah. Anyway, once per turn you can detach one Xyz material from this card. This card gains attack equal to the combined ranks of all Xyz monsters currently on the field times 1000 until the end of the opponent's turn. When this card is destroyed by a card effect, destroy as many monsters on the field as possible, minimum 1. Then each player sets one spell or trap card from their graveyard to their field. And when an opponent's monster declares an attack while this card is in your graveyard and you have no cards in your on your hand and field, you can special summon this card. The revival effect not only just plays against the entire nature of this card's floating effect, but is one of the most specific protection effects I have ever seen on an extra deck monster. I am serious. For you to have no cards on your hand or field means you're probably losing the game, and you basically dump this thing into the graveyard with something like Gale Dogra or anything else that can dump stuff from the extra deck to the graveyard. But yeah, the summoning condition is also asinine as shit. Well, it requires 2 number Xyz monsters first of all, and they have to be of the same name and rank. Okay, so that part is a bit redundant of the same rank, because if you're using the 2 monsters of the same name as material, they're going to be of the same rank unless someone used something like to increase ranks or anything on the other monster, making it ineligible. But yeah, I'm kind of going a bit too deep into this. However, the effect could actually mean that you can use something like, I don't know, the regular Utopia and Utopia the Lightning as material, so that's 2 monsters with the same name, maybe. But yeah, like this is pretty much suggests, you play an entire deck revolving around this card. And yeah, I mean, you can use two of the Numeron Gates of the same name to bring it out, but yeah, you don't get the Xyz materials, and yeah, that's kind of a bummer. But anyway, now we move on to the final monster of the archetype, that being Chaos number 1, Numeron Chaos Gate Shunya. This one is a rank 2, requires 2 level 2 monsters, or a Rankup Magic, hint hint. Who has 2000 attack and 1000 defense, one of the biggest stats for a rank 2 monster. And you can also Xyz summon this card by using number 1 Numeron Gate Acom. You control as material and you transfer the materials. And when this card is, and if this card is Xyz summoned, banish all monsters on the field, and if this card is banished during your next standby phase, you can special summon this banished card. Also, if you control Numeron Network, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the total attack of all banished Xyz monsters. And again, this is another one of those cards that you basically have to build your entire deck around. And yeah, it specifically needs to be of the Xyz monster, but hey, at least you're always guaranteed a 2000 burn, since this thing has 2000 attack. Although, are you? Because this thing comes back and all the other monsters remain, so does it take this card's attack into the equation as well? That part I'm not sure, but it probably doesn't. So yeah, this is basically a gimmicky burn card, and its summoning was actually made immensely easier, since I believe the 1000 used the Rankup Magic on Acom in order to bring this thing out. Or I could be misremembering. It's been a while since I saw Zexal, and I'm not about to revisit any of it again, since I think it's the worst Yu-Gi-Oh! To date. For now, I still haven't watched Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s, and I dread the thought of it already, so let's just move on. Now we move on to the field spell we've been mentioning quite a few times, Numeron Network. You can send one Numeron normal spell card that meets its activation conditions from your deck to the graveyard. This effect becomes that spell's effect when that card is activated. You can only use this effect of Numeron Network once per turn, and you can activate the effects of Numeron Xyz monsters you control without detaching materials. Ooh boy, so basically, if you bring out the Numeron monsters, the numbers 1 through 4, with the spell card, this card basically ensures because the spell card does not provide them with Xyz materials, and this field spell provides that you won't be have to worry about the Xyz materials, so it plays into the OTK and FTK aspect of the numbers for 1 through 4. And yeah, the first part of the effect actually has a grand total of 3 cards, and yeah, one of them being the ranked down magic Numeron Fall, which isn't even the part of the archetype, on which this effect is applicable. One of them we'll talk about the other 2 later, and yeah, this basically this basically turns Rankup Magic Numeron Force into a quick effect negator. So yeah, it's a nice thing to have, since Numeron Force is barely searchable. So yeah. Next up we have Numeron Calling. If Numeron Network is in your field zone and you control no monster, special summon up to 4 Numeron Gate Xyz monsters from your extra deck with different names, but banish them during the end phase. Also, you can only normal or special summon once for the rest of this turn. Yeah, this restriction of normal or special summoning once per turn clearly goes into the effect of Chaos Gate Shunya, since you're probably going to attack for a lot of damage with the 4 gates, and then rank up A come into Shunya, so you'll get the banish effect off. So yeah, this deck basically only has one thing going for it, which is a somewhat inconsistent OTK strategy. Wonderful, but hey, there are worse things out there, and you can basically use this to go into a Link 4 monster if you want to. So yeah, not everything is bad. And lastly, we have Rankup Magic Numeron Force, which most of you should be probably familiar with. It allows you to target a face-up Xyz monster you control and in its place summon a Chaos Number monster with transferring the Xyz materials, so basically a standard Rankup Magic effect. And then its additional effect is, if any face-up cards are on the field other than this card and the monster summoned by it, negate the effects of those other cards. So yeah, Rankup Magic Numeron Force negates absolutely everything once you use it to summon something, and it's pretty dang nice for the stuff that it does. And it's, yeah, I love it a lot. And Numeron Network makes it a lot better if you plan to run it in any Xyz spam deck, not necessarily Numeron. So yeah. And before I end this review off, I am well aware that there are several other cards that Don1000 use that have not been revealed yet, and most of them are related to the number 1000, Chaos number 1000 Numeronius and Chaos Imaginary number 1000 Numeronius Numeronia, which for very obvious reasons will not be printed. Neither will I think the trap cards from this archetype, that being Numeron Spell Revision and Numeron Xyz Revision, which have the effect that Spell Revision, when your opponent activates a spell card, that you basically negate that activation and place another spell card in its place to be activated. And Xyz Revision, basically when your opponent Xyz summons, you basically negate the summon and replace the Xyz monster with another monster from the opponent's main deck of your choice, I believe. So yeah, and like the text on Numeron Network says that you can only use normal spell cards for it, it really suggests that the trap cards are not going to be printed, or at least not in the very near future. Now for the grades, this is, okay, a little bit tricky, since it is a tech archetype in its own way, but it's also an archetype with its own gimmick, and that gimmick being one thing which, yeah, is which is the exact same thing every time in every game. Gets repetitive, predictable, and yeah. So in terms of consistency, the fact that they have a well, that's more of a versatility. In terms of versatility, then the fact that they have a spell card which can special summon 4 extra deck monsters at once, for the cost of you simply having no monsters on the field and a specific field spell up on the field, is actually quite nice in my opinion, and is in my opinion worth uh, for a 2 out of 3 at least. Consistency is utter dog shit, as they have one main deck monster and none of the other stuff helps out in that matter, except for maybe Numeron Network, as it allows you to set up the graveyard for some other stuff. Yeah, it's very sparse, 1 out of 3 in terms of consistency. Power purely depends on the gimmick of the numbers 1 through 4 beatdown, and that should speak for yourself. And Numeron Dragon is something you build your entire deck around, so 1 out of 3. Comeback ability purely depends on Numeron Calling and nothing else, or praying to God that Numeron Network does something useful on its own without its anime effect. And as for the protection, I mean, could you consider Numeron Wall and Numeron Force protections? I don't, so no. And like I said, versatility gets a 2 out of 3 because of Numeron Calling and nothing else. And Numeron Force being searchable from the deck and activatable from the deck by Numeron Network, so 2 out of 3 in versatility. So yeah, that was pretty much expected what I was going to say about Numerons if they ever come back into the game. And yeah, I'll just have to wait for the other archetypes in the Collection Pack 2020 to get finished, and yeah, all their cards to be revealed, and then I'll go straight to work. I have one more Duel Monsters archetype I need to review. That review will probably be coming tomorrow. I had some stuff to take care of. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos and updates. Come like and subscribe. Be sure to check out my Patreon if you want to support the show. Maybe drop a few donations if you feel like it. Every bit helps currently in my fundraiser project for getting Persona 5 Royale. If you would like to see that Let's Play come to the channel a lot faster, be sure to maybe drop a few donations. So yeah, and I'll see you all and have a good day. Peace.